Okay, now that we made all the pulls with 91 pump fuel, we're gonna fill it up with some Renegade Pro 85 and hopefully see some good horsepower numbers.
What do you think, Nick? 10 horsepower? Could I put my money on 10 horse?
That sounds good. Let's see what it is.
Let's try it.
Hi friends, episode 2 of the Mel Hamilton Ford Hunt for Horsepower. We're out here at Polk Performance. We've done a bunch of dyno pulls on this 2021 Mustang. It's our second phase of the build and what we're gonna do. And guys, we got a lot of stuff to go, don't we?
We do have a lot to go.
Anyway, so we've made some pulls with a stock, then we put on a cold air intake and a tune, but we have a lot more stuff coming with the Mustang because we're still lacking again, Dave, we're lacking the...
There's the software on the HP tuners. It's a 2021 Mustang, so there's not many parameters out available for it yet. So we're unable to tune the transmission correctly and an E85.
So, and you've seen some other cars like you've done a 2020, and you've seen some real improvements with those with the transmission and E85, which we're not gonna be able to show today, correct?
That's correct, very good gains.
Now, the biggest thing we're gonna see with that transmission is the actual use of a trans brake. So that's gonna help our 60-foot times dramatically.
Okay, so let's look at the chart we got up here in the wall. And Nick, I'm like you, I'm learning a lot from this stuff too. So Dave, the blue and the red. The blue is stock.
Blue is the baseline vehicle.
Okay, so where do we turn for baseline horsepower and baseline torque?
Baseline peak horsepower was 397.86.
Okay.
And it was signing off pretty early up here. As you can see, the blue line ends right here. And it was already tapering off. Right around 6,200 RPMs. Okay. And you know, at the very low end, taking off where like you would be 60 foot at the track at, the torque is substantially lower here, and so we make really good gains in those areas.
So now, how much torque did we end up on a baseline? 382.
Baseline torque was 407. There was one little peak right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That part. Okay, so now then we turned in and we installed a Steeda Air Cleaner, right?
Yep, we put the Steeda cold air intake on it and then let him do his magic on the tube.
Took you about 30 minutes to install the Steeda Air Cleaner intake, and then doing that intake, you cannot just put the intake on. You've got to tune the car for that intake.
You got to tune for it. That intake is substantially larger than the factory one. The intake tube size is massive. The airbox lid is massive. Everything about this thing is massive to make some horsepower.
Okay, so thanks our Steeda partners with this program. So now we took off and we did another pull after the tune. And again, I can't wait to see what we're gonna get when we put the E85 and the transmission in, because when I drove it down the drag strip, the transmission does need some work for how it shifted when it was stock. So I can't wait to see what kind of improvements when that transmission actually hits hard and hits when it needs to shift instead of the way it shifted going down the track. Nick, you have any questions so far?
I have a lot of questions, Phil, but I'm still learning. But I think the numbers were really impressive. The horsepower pickup, they looked like they picked up about 38 horsepower just by changing the intake and the tune. So virtually a stock 2021 GT, I think that's a good pickup for what it costs to do.
Okay, so Dave, explain the red line and how much longer it goes. What's happening there so everybody that's watching the dyno sheet can know? Because this is our stock here, and then this is after the tune. So what really changed there? What really happened or whatever?
So the Steeda air take, after it was installed, we noticed it's merited a lot more top end horsepower. We're able to take it all the way out to 7,400 RPMs and before it starts to sign off any power. So the graph starts to decline right here.
Yep.
So it continues to increase even past where it shut off here. We continue to gain power way out there, and the torque remains way high out there. So during the shift points, when we get into the meat of that torque after each shift, hope that's going to merit some good core mile times.
Okay, let's back up to the reading over here. You're talking about our 0 to 60 foot time here that's going to improve.
Yeah, so the tuning in the Steeda air intake helped us a lot. I think we're going to be able to get a lot more torque during the whole shot and lower the 60 foot substantially and get the car moving a lot faster sooner.
Okay, can't wait for a couple more tunes we can put in it and adjustments we can do for today. But again, phase 2 of the Mel Hamilton Ford Hunt for Horsepower. The air intake cleaner was how much?
$399.
And about $50 to install unless you want to do it yourself. Dave, for your dyno use here today, what would someone charge? What would you charge someone for the dyno use for this?
For the 18-up Mustangs, I charge $550 for those. So it's one price out the door.
Fantastic. Nick, what other questions you got for us today?
I think that's about it. It makes a lot of sense. I'm just excited to get to the next phase and get back to the track.
And which is the next phase is?
Suspension work. So after we get the 85 tune built and the transmission squared away, we have a full suspension package from Steeda and Viking. Their stop to hop kit, bushing and cradle upgrades, front struts, rear coilovers, everything to make that IRS work the way it should going down a drag strip.
Okay, I know what IRS stands for, but our listeners probably don't. It's how we are, Nick. We have all these lingos we use and stuff, but ISR or IRS is what?
So independent rear suspension. So all the new Mustangs, like your GT500, they were designed to be multiple use. Go around a track, and that IRS has a great function for that. But unfortunately, with the drag race portion of things, which is what we're trying to achieve with this car, it allows a lot of deflection in the rear end, which is lost in horsepower. So we're going to try to gain that back and gain traction back and be able to improve our quarter-mile times with that.
Okay, so we're going to do all those, and then kind of what's our next stage is probably a turbo.
Yep. After that, or
Little teaser there, I guess.
Got a big turbo kit to put on it and see how much that coyote wants to make horsepower-wise.
Okay, so then we're going to go, once we get the transmission tunes, are we going to put it back on the dyno, or are we just going to go to the stripper? I think we got to probably put it back on the dyno when you've got the transmission ready to go and the E85 ready to go, correct?
I think we could actually do the transmission tuning, most of it on the dyno, and then go to the track with it.
And go to the track. So that's probably going to be our next phase, is going to the KID, Kansas International Dragway, to see what kind of lap times we can turn from that part. And we need to thank the sponsors again, everybody that's helping us put this package together. Who's going to rattle them off?
I'll go with that. So the big one right now today was Steeda with their air box. Huge help there. Obviously backing it up with the tune. We have fuel injector development came on board that has the fuel injectors for when we go big horsepower E85. Aeromotive sponsored the fuel system for front to rear for big horsepower when we go turbo. We have Hoosier Tire, and then Weld helped us sell on some wheels.
All right, no more questions, Nick?
Oh, let's get back to the racetrack.
Let's get back to the racetrack. Let's get those final tunes and everything else like that. So everybody, stay tuned for season. How about that, season? Episode 3 of Hunt for Horsepower from Mel Hamilton Ford.